Hello. These videos are coming a little bit thicker and faster at the moment. Had a bit of a download earlier, so I kind of decided to take my usual little walk and process some of the thinking. And it's a very blustery kind of day today. Lots of dark clouds and wind and confusion, and we've had lots of rain as well, so a little bit stormy. And sometimes that's how the head feels at times, a little bit stormy. So worth grounding the energy and getting a bit more settled. And yeah, I was just looking at some stuff recently on. I know I keep banging on about what's going on in the world at the moment, but I suppose it's relevant because we're all living it. And this thing came to me today because I watched this little video clip of a funeral which had been recently recorded, and everyone was made to sit in socially distanced chairs, and you know, it was at a crematorium, and I think the lady whose husband had passed was sitting in the front row, and in the middle of one of the eulogies, I think her brother or her son picked his chair up and came over and sat next to her, put his arm around her, and then her other son did the same from the other side. And then within seconds, this burly individual who obviously worked for the crematorium came along, and wasn't sure where he politely asked them to separate again, but basically told them in not so uncertain terms that they weren't allowed to do that. And it kind of made me feel really sick, you know, because you're clearly in a situation which is difficult enough, and then you've got someone interfering with that process. And again, whatever your views on whether we should be doing this or not, right now I can't help but feel that if you start to really seek and see into the root of some of these laws that are being passed, these regulations, whatever you want to call them, rules, commandments, thou shalt not sit next to someone unless you're 2 meters apart. Thou shalt not stand up in a restaurant, but you can sit down, yeah? I can't help but think that this enforcement of whatever you want to call them is essentially slowly eroding. Let's call it eroding, not stripping. I was going to use the word stripping, but eroding the soul, the feeling away from living daily life as a human, okay? Human meaning Hu meaning spirit, man meaning to think, the rune manas, the mind. So to be fully human means you have embodied your spirit, your spiritual mind, okay? And in order to do that, we have to feel, right? We have to tap into our emotions, we have to listen to our conscience, we have to do what any non-deterministic instinctual being is incapable of, because they're not made that way, right? We have a gift. We've been given the gift of spirit, and if we choose to embody that and grow that within us, then we become human, right? So, you know, without wanting to go into occult wisdom and all this stuff, right? Because, you know, the topic is vast, right? But there are potentially forces out there, forces I call them, which want to strip the soul from humanity, or erode the soul from humanity and eventually strip it. And they'll use any excuse to do it. So again, you know, like I'm saying, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but I'm expressing what I feel right now, and I like to express what I feel. I kind of miss expressing some of these teachings, because obviously having worked at the local prison for a couple of years now, doing this kind of work, and having been unfortunately stopped from doing that, hopefully temporarily, until this whole thing shakes itself out, I kind of miss doing that, right? So you're getting it instead. So my fellow inmates on the inside aren't getting it, but my fellow inmates on the outside are. You know, we have a slightly higher level of incentive and earned privileges, and if you know anything about the justice system and the penal system, you'll know what that means. Look it up on Google if you don't. And obviously our incentives and earned privileges on the outside of the prison wall are starting to be somewhat eroded and behavioural based. So control is coming. But joking aside, things that essentially take us away from our humanity need to be realised, need to be felt. And whatever your views on this pandemic and this virus, it can serve a very positive purpose. But when these human rights, these gifts that we have within us to be human, are not necessarily taken from us, because we don't have to listen to all these laws, right? But are restricted and enforced away from us, then we feel a bit of an issue in our hearts, right? Like I did when I saw that funeral, and it was like, and to some extent that brought back a memory for me when my father died, and I was actually inside. Fortunately, I was allowed to go to his funeral, but it was a very simple affair, and being chained to two prison officers wasn't really a pleasant experience. But so I kind of felt for that lady when this individual came and interrupted what is essentially a sacred time for us, as our weddings, which are being restricted right now, as are seeing our family, as are being able to see our friends, being able to sing, being able to dance, being able to socialise, being able to be part of something greater than just our own individual thoughts and feelings within a limited vehicle called a body, i.e. we have a group soul, we have a soul called humanity, the soul of humanity. And if we carry on down this path, my feeling is the soul of humanity is slowly being eroded. And when the soul of humanity has been eroded, we become automatons, we become robots. We no longer have the polishing effect of the spirit, the inspirational effect of the spirit working through us. We might be highly intelligent, we might be able to create wondrous developments of technology and materialistic call them benefits and improvements to our physical life. But if we are purely operating at a level of physicality, at a level of three-dimensional mundanity, without the ability to express our spirit, our consciousness, then life will be a completely different ballgame, and the growth of the soul will no longer be possible. I don't normally like to get involved in politics, but I think it's necessary to be socially active in times like this. It's not an unspiritual thing to do, to have views, to have feelings about what's going on. So I also read recently that Rishi Sunak, current Chancellor of the Exchequer, was going to limit funding for the creative arts, the performing arts, and other artistic creative endeavours in the UK, of which the UK ultimately is a world leader in at the moment. And he's basically said that maybe people in these industries need to go and get a normal job, you know, earn their money outside of our soul-centred gifts, rather than making money from them. Not necessarily making money from them, but extracting a living from what we're here to offer, you know, what our souls are here to offer in our talents, our gifts, our creativity. I think he'd rather see us sat in cubicles in front of computers, feeding the likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, YouTube, and all these other tech giants that seem to be controlling and taking over our lives at the moment. So, from a spiritual perspective, and the wind's picking up, from a spiritual perspective, we have to observe these things, and we have to become very aware and highly alert to them, lest we become hypnotized and fall further into a way of life and a way of being which does not fulfill our divine potential, really. I was talking to my beautiful partner Wendy this morning. I just took part in one of her online Kundalini yoga classes, Kundalini technology classes, and whether you're going out for a walk, or whether you're connecting through a spiritual practice, whether you're using nature as your spiritual practice, whatever you do, it's so important to do that right now. And she and I were talking today about how potentially we can try and offer, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face, under current government guidelines, right? How we can create space for people to connect and remember their truth, remember their soul, and engage in activities which promote the expression of the spirit rather than this automatic, deterministic way of life which we seem to be being indoctrinated into. And yet again, those that struggle the most through these kinds of things, I guess, are the more creative, empathic individuals. Those that are happy to just follow the rules. You know, at times I envy them because that's easy, isn't it? It's easy to follow a rule. It's just easy to do as you're told, keep your head down, and go with the flow. The problem is, where's the flow going? You know, where's the flow going? Where's the flow of your spirit going? Not necessarily the flow of your physical body, this temporary amalgamation of energies that come together and eventually dissolve back into the Divine Mother, back into nature, just like the leaves on the trees, and this time of year fall onto the ground, they rot, they get reabsorbed back to provide sustenance and fertilization for new growth, okay? So everything in this temporal reality ends, and if we attach too much of our nature to it, then I feel our spirit becomes unstuck and doesn't fulfill its potential. We've all struggled with that. We all struggle with expression, especially when there are so many forces out there that try to block it, try to belittle it, try to divide it. But even if it's smiling at someone, even if it's opening a door for someone, even if it's dancing in your living room, do it. because it's really important to do that right now. And whatever you're doing, it's helping that collective spirit and soul of humanity to grow. So Wendy and I will be offering, once we've got our heads together a bit more and figured out how we want to offer a monthly talking circle, maybe a 2-hour event every month, either online or face to face, which allows people to vent, talk, practice some spiritually cleansing and enlivening techniques, hear some teachings, do some psychology work, do some shadow work, anything. You know, we can play it by ear, but yeah, we're always trying to figure out how we can, what's the best way to serve really in this current climate. And a big part of the shamanic path is adaptability, right? Being able to weave your way through the changes that are happening externally. Be that antivirus program, yeah? The antivirus gets into the program. It doesn't doesn't look at the program from the outside of the computer and goes, oh, that's not very nice. Not sure I want to get my hands dirty there. Yeah. No, it gets stuck in. It gets stuck in, and it enacts change or maintains equilibrium from the inside. And that's all our role, no matter what you practice in your life. I say be the antivirus program, but be careful, because even the antivirus program can be attacked. The antivirus program can be put down, eliminated. So sometimes we have to use stealth, a little bit of fox-like craftiness, and to some extent some humour and some lightness of spirit through all of this. So look on our respective pages, Wendy Vickery, metaphysical therapist, Be Shamanic, to see what things are going to start popping up that Wendy and I are going to co-create together and join in, okay? No matter what's going on. We're not going to charge huge amounts of money, you know, there'll have to be an energy exchange of some sort, but we're going to keep it very accessible, and I say the more the merrier, okay? So let's look around us and understand how our soul senses, how our intuition and our emotional landscape is being shut down, eroded and attacked by forces that seek to divide, separate, maybe conquer. And it's not about fighting back, okay? It's not about fighting what's coming at you. Yes, use the momentum of what's coming at you against it. Yeah, Aikido, martial arts. Use the momentum of whatever opponent you feel is impinging on your spiritual birthrights to essentially extricate yourself and create a new way of life for yourself. I'd be very interested to hear from all you lovely people what you're doing in your daily lives to remain vigilant, remain to some extent, somewhat rebellious, if you want to be rebellious, or to at least maintain an element of soul-centered activity in your life, creative-centered activity in your life, so that we can share that and inspire others. So you can use my Facebook page to do that, leave some comments at the bottom of this video, whatever, gives me some ideas as well, which is great. Oh, wind's picking up again. Whee! So, yeah, I think I think we need to stay calm, serene and aware at the moment. You know, try and remain in some trust. Look at this little baby. He seems to be somewhat stuck on the tarmac. So, oh, it's alright, buddy. So he doesn't get squished by a car. As slimy as he is, I'm going to attempt to pick him up and stick him back in the earth where he belongs, or she, or both. So there we are. Off you go. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that today. Check within yourself regularly. Be cognizant of where you might be getting hooked into the pendulum swings of the forces that are playing out at the moment, and where you might be unconsciously feeding those. It's okay to express opinion, it's okay to speak your truth, be whatever you need to be within all of this, but allow it also to transform you from the inside and bring more creativity and spirit into your expressions and responses, because ultimately that's what will endure. Okay, the spirit shall endure. The physical might not, but the spirit will. Spiritual will. See you next time.